This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
I'm just going to kind of bring the podcast in this week. Not really having a formal opening, I guess, because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, Lewis, because work has been just ridiculous. And I like podcasts that just kind of open up and just start, you know, no real formal entrance. I mean, obviously, everybody knows Better Live Than Dead 52. We're here every week. I mean, at this point, you all should know how we do things here. I am Ryan Wolf. And
I'm Mr. Perez.
I was about to say on the other end is Mr. Perez. And here's a fun thing we're doing today. Perez is actually in his car, on his Bluetooth, on Skype. So, again, for 2 straight weeks, we're trying something different. We're learning something new. Well, I'm obviously in the process of moving right now. I'm still, as you may see on the BLTD Twitter, at BLTD Sports on the tweet bots. I'm currently still in my parents' kitchen with my makeshift studio. And you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it is what it is.
Hey,
I'm not worried about it.
I need you to talk for a couple minutes. My wife is calling me, and this might be important.
All right, that's fine. I'll just start with the news, and when you hop back in, just let me know, and we'll invite you.
Okay, cool. Bye.
All right, I'll still be here. As I was saying, while Perez is off on an important phone call, I'm at my parents' house waiting to move. Moving's not fun. I don't advise doing it, and I'm going to end up doing it twice in 2 weeks. So I clearly have something wrong up in my. Something insane in the membrane, I guess, if you want to say that. But I just want to get started off real quick this week. Not a lot happening in the sports world with MLB, the main sport, Major League Baseball, having their All-Star break this week. Again, it was very quiet sports week. But we do have some news to share with you. So jumping headfirst into the news you need to know, starting off in the NBA, Indianapolis. The Pacers acquired forward Chase Budinger. Last season, in 67 games played, he had 4 starts. He averaged 19.2 minutes, 8.6 points per game. Not bad, a solid guy off the bench. Sacramento Kings signed forward Caron Butler. Philadelphia 76ers dealt a blow as center Joel Embiid will miss his second consecutive season after undergoing foot surgery again on the same foot. His foot was reportedly not healing properly from the first surgery. Some sources do believe the setback could be career-threatening, but the 76ers, no one really knows what they're doing at this point. They're kind of just, I guess they're kind of just hanging in there, and they have an idea of what they want to do, but I'm not really sure if that is going as effective as they want it to. But, I mean, they've been one of the worst teams in basketball for the past handful of years, and at this point it looks like they're just going to try to stack their team with as many first round or top picks as they can, which, I mean, if you get the right players, I guess it's not a bad thing. The Oklahoma City Thunder match Portland's 4-year, $70 million max offer sheet for Enes Kanter, center. Last season, Kanter had a breakout year. In 75 games played, 74 of them being his starts. He had 15.5 points per game, so he's going to be an important part of that Oklahoma City Thunder core moving forward. Speaking of Oklahoma City, Boston acquired forward Perry Jones from the Thunder in 43 games played last year, 13 starts. Jones averaged 4.3 points per game. The Clippers signed forward Josh Smith. Smith, 12.4 points per game last season in 83 games played, 35 starts. That's one thing I want to find out. I probably should have looked at before the podcast, but there's 82 games in a season. He played 83. I wonder how often that has happened. Obviously with trades and stuff, you know, obviously the one team played more games, and I'm sure you guys can do math. I'm not very good at it. I apologize. Also, last thing in basketball, the Wisconsin Senate approves financing for a new Milwaukee Bucks arena. The deal calls for $250 million in public subsidies, would cost the city and county residents $400 million after you add interest over the 20-year span of the deal. Now, the Wisconsin Assembly needs to approve the deal for it to happen, but we will see how that ends up turning out for them. And what I'm going to do right now is, I don't want to get too far because there are some things I want to talk to Lewis about coming up. I mean, basketball, you know, it's just kind of go through the news and see what's happening. But going to take a quick break right here and wait for Lewis. And then when he gets back, we will jump head first back in the news you need to know.
Hey, I'm back.
Hi. I knew
What's
that wouldn't take long. I knew that. It's all good.
No.
As we say, life happens. You got to sometimes you got to go when the call happens, and just
when the wife
news out.
calls, when the wife calls, you got to take it. Especially since she had some questions about my dog. The dog. And I had to talk to the vet this morning. So
when the Imperial March plays on your phone, then you know it's time to answer the phone.
That's right. And I have that on my phone, so that's that is literally what my ringtone is. That's Darth Vader's Imperial March.
I was gonna say it's not me taking a shot because I know your wife's a nice lady. It's just I'm calling how I see it because I thought if I remembered correctly that was your ringtone for your wife, but
that's my ringtone for everybody.
Wow,
that's just my normal ringtone.
Well, usually your wife is the only one that calls during the podcast.
Yes,
when you're
true.
around, but that's okay. It's okay. It's not a problem.
I may have to put you on hold one more time because I'm waiting for my vet to actually call me back.
As soon as they call, just let me know and we'll pause the podcast. I'm in no rush today. The only thing I have going on tonight is I'm going to Buffalo at about 10:30. So,
how's your girl doing?
She's doing real good. Things are going well. I'm very happy. Very happy with how things are going. I mean, she wasn't too happy last weekend when the podcast took 8 hours to record, but I wasn't. I felt really bad. I still feel bad about it, but I'll make up for it.
Well, tell her I said hello.
I certainly will, and I'm sure she'll hear the podcast. So I'm sure she'll hear that too. But I will make sure
hello
to tell her. Moving over to Wimbledon now. Novak Djokovic defeats Roger Federer, winning his third Wimbledon final and his 9th career Grand Slam, moving him to 8th all time. That was, from what I saw, that was a phenomenal match. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I caught most of it. Or parts
it was a really good match.
I saw Djokovic freak out and rip his shirt off and start cursing and stuff. That was pretty funny. Moving over to the PGA now, Dustin Johnson and Danny Willett are tied for the lead at 9 under. Now Willett's through 2 days. Dustin Johnson is through 15 holes on his second day. They currently suspended play because winds are upwards of, I think, 45 to 50 miles an hour. At this point,
the British Open's weather right now is just crazy.
Dude, I woke up. I was still up at 3 this morning, so I turned golf on, and I watched. I think it was Louis Oosthuizen had a putt. I think it was 18 inches off the hole. He didn't mark it. He just went to go tap it in because it was tapping.
Right.
He measures the putt, goes to putt, and right as he goes to putt, the ball starts to roll away, and it rolls about 5 to 10 feet away from the hole. And because he didn't set the putt, he didn't set the ball.
He had to putt it from there.
He had to putt it from 5 feet out.
That's crazy.
Well, it's like, as they say, in Happy Gilmore, you got to play it where it lies. You got to play it off Frankenstein's fat foot. So
that's right. So you were up last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know.
I went to bed at 3:30. Yeah.
Did you have the big storm like we did here in Rochester?
When I went to bed last night, now first I'll finish golf and then I'll jump into that real quick. Jordan Spieth tied for 15th, 5 under through 15 on the second day. Tiger Woods set to miss the cut, tied it for 129th with a +5 through 12 on his second day. And for the second time ever in the history of the British Open will end on a Monday. So that'll be pretty cool to wake up on Monday, watch golf. British Open's really cool. But yeah, I was just getting ready to go to bed last night and I saw flashing lights. And I was like, that's weird. So I look out the side window, and then the sky just starts lighting up with lightning. So I check on the radar on my phone. I see a line of red storms coming. So whatever, I fall asleep. It started to rain a little before I fell asleep. And then my mom, I wake up, no joke, an hour later. My mom is just standing in the living room just like staring at me. And she's like, it's really bad outside. I was like, yeah, Mom, I know. I'm trying to sleep. And she's like, yeah, it's really, really bad out there. And like I was up for like 35 more minutes listening to it rain and just like monsoon outside. It was crazy.
It was really crazy. It woke us up. Both my dogs jumped out of our bed at one point. Although the one dog doesn't really jump, it kind of climbs. And there was some lightning strikes during the storm that I swear was right outside my house. I mean, it was so bright and so loud that it was ridiculous. And I went and stood in my door for a while and just watched it. And dude, it was crazy.
I can't remember a time where I've seen that much lightning in Rochester, like, at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, it was something. And the storms this summer have been really, really, really crazy.
They have been.
Hold on one second. I have to unplug my headphone to do something really quick.
It's that global warming crap.
I'm back now.
Welcome back.
I've got a white T-shirt on and I don't want to ruin it. I've already almost tried to ruin a shirt this week. I was eating spaghetti earlier this week and I got spaghetti in my shirt and I'm like, are you stupid or what?
I love SpaghettiOs.
Dude, I had spaghetti, but I love SpaghettiOs too. SpaghettiOs are the truth.
Oh, I thought you said you had SpaghettiOs.
No, I
had
pasta.
Regular spaghetti?
Yeah, I had pasta and meatballs for lunch one day. My mom was making it for dinner, and I was like, well, I'm going to work. I can't have some, so can I have some now? And she said, absolutely.
My favorite pasta is rigatoni.
So that's the cool thing about living at home right now is that I can eat healthy. I can eat not healthy, but I can eat good, which is nice.
Right.
Moving over to NCAA football now. A judge approves a $60 million settlement with EA Sports and the NCAA. There were two separate lawsuits. One's for $40 million, one's for $20 million. They combined it. The settlement will allow players to get paid for their likenesses being used in college sports games from May 2003 to September 2014. As you know, anybody who's played any college game, you see the guy where it's like quarterback 12 for Stanford, and he has the same attributes as Andrew Luck, same height, same weight, same facial features, all that stuff, but it's quarterback 12, so they don't have to pay him. Well, someone sued, and a lot of people joined the lawsuit, and they're going to get paid now for it, which is rightfully so.
Yeah, I really have no opinion about that.
That's
I
fine.
Don't care.
That's fine. Well, the NCAA needs to pay their players, and this, I think, is the first step in slowly but surely in that direction.
Does the NCAA need to pay their players?
I think so.
I mean,
I think so.
You're in college. You're playing a college sport.
But look how much money they're making off the players, though, and they don't.
Oh, they're making tons of money.
And they don't. And there's kids that in college sports that don't eat. Barely have a place to live.
And that is something that needs to be addressed. They should definitely, and listen, if you're a college athlete and you're on a team, that school should take care of you.
I'm not saying give guys contracts like, hey, I'm going to sign a 1-year deal for $15 million because I'm a top chip prospect. But I'm saying, look if you're a football player, you should get some sort of stipend from the school. I don't care if you're a blue chip prospect or a third line or a third string cornerback who returns punts, or just a guy who sits on the bench. You're on the team. You get X amount of money per season for food, for housing, whatever. That's how I feel, at least.
You know what? I can get on board on that. I was going to play devil's advocate and go the opposite direction, but I could get on board with that.
Well, we've seen all the horror stories about players that are like, look, I'm the best basketball player in the country, and I'm eating bread for dinner, like literally just bread for dinner.
Yeah, that's not right.
Because if they do anything, if someone gives them like a jelly packet, it's like, oh, that's an improper benefit. It's like, are you serious?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
Schools can provide bagels, but they can't provide butter because butter's an impermissible benefit. Are you serious?
Right.
Moving over to the National Football League now, Perez, I'm sure you saw this. The Buffalo Bills had quite a week. Buffalo Bills offensive line coach Aaron Kromer arrested for assault and battery after punching a minor in the face over a dispute regarding that kid and a few others stealing his beach chairs. Kromer also threatened to kill the minor's family if he went to the police about the matter. Buffalo has placed Kromer on indefinite leave of absence, but it's believed he's going to be fired at some point in time soon.
I believe it. You did just threaten to kill a family over some darn beach chairs.
You punched a kid in the face. Who does that?
I do. I mean, I don't know.
Allegedly, Perez. My fist did not fit in his bruise on his face. It is too small for my fist, so I didn't do it.
Were they really nice beach chairs? I mean,
I don't know, man. He had something. There was something about those chairs that he just did not. He apparently did not want to pass on, and he got real pissed.
You don't want people stealing your stuff. I get that, but you don't really want to beat up a minor either.
You don't want to beat anybody up because you'll go to jail. I mean, those are just the facts of life, my friend.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's between two consenting adults, you shouldn't call the cops.
I mean, I guess you have a point there, but that's like some Kimbo Slice stuff going on right there.
Only if it's a backyard.
Only if it's in a Taco Bell parking lot.
That's right.
Moving on to more Buffalo news. I'm not sure if you saw this one, Perez.
Just so you know, I may get pulled over any second now.
Why is that?
Oh, I was doing about 80 in a 55, and the cop just clocked me.
Uh-oh.
So I'll let you know if I get pulled over. But let's keep going with the Buffalo Bills.
Well, we can just mute it, or we can just leave it on, and we can just listen to you get pulled over and talk to the cop. It'd be an exclusive, a BLTD Sports or BLTD exclusive. We'll post the audio up on.
That'd be kind of awesome.
Post the audio up on BLTDsports.com.
Right.
Buffalo safety Duke Williams called out by porn star Mia Khalifa for DMs that show Williams trying to get her to hang out. Williams responds by saying he was inviting a ton of people to a pool party. There was nothing behind it. She said he's thirsty. He said, I'm not dehydrated at all, alluding to the fact that he says he gets laid a lot, whatever. But
right.
That was pretty funny, I think.
Especially if, why are you going to call this dude out saying he's inviting you, making it seem like an exclusive thing, if my man's having a pool party?
Well, because she said that this stuff happens a lot. I mean, that's how the internet works these days, unfortunately. But
this dude, I mean, if he's throwing a pool party and he's a Buffalo Bill, he's probably going to have a lot of, pretty hot chicks there walking around scantily clad.
Well, have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen this female, Mia Khalifa?
I have not.
You probably should go take a look, Perez. Just go check her out on Instagram or on the internet or whatever.
Mia Khalifa?
Yeah.
All right. I'll give her a look-see.
Just don't do it while you're driving, please. You're already multitasking.
Yeah, I won't do it while I'm driving.
You might you might lose your concentration. Ex-NFL coach Jim Fossil said this week there could be an NFL Spring League in 2016. He says, quote, "Don't be surprised if there's a very good Spring League opening up next year in the National Football League." Now, this is interesting because would it be like a league that involves free agents? Would it be a league that involves kids coming out of college that didn't get drafted? Because, I mean,
right.
it makes sense. Like, have a 2-month essentially tryout or whatever, play, I don't know, 4 or 5 games just to show, look I can do this. I'm the best of the worst, essentially, because free agents are undrafted kids, or there's a reason why they're undrafted or why they're a free agent currently. Prove that you're the best of the worst and earn yourself a spot on a roster. I mean, a lot of guys don't get that shot because there's no shot to be had. So there may be a guy out there that an undrafted quarterback that's never going to get a shot that could be the next Tom Brady.
Right.
I know I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but that's what I'm thinking. This could be, not to mention it's a National Football League. It's more money.
Right, but you never know. I mean, Tom Brady was a second stringer.
Well, yeah, he was the 7th round pick, 199th overall. He was like the 7th quarterback taken in his draft. You just take a shot on a guy, and you never know what'll happen.
That's right.
Former Miami Dolphin Will Allen was indicted for his role in a Ponzi scheme. He faces 23 felony counts, including wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. That's
bad job, dude.
Probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that's not a good idea at all.
By the way, if you get a second, Lewis, I don't know if you have HBO or you know someone who does, or maybe I can help you out because I have a login. Check out Ballers, the show with The Rock. It's Entourage with football players and The Rock. And I watched all 4 episodes, dude. I'll tell you what. It's like, I like Entourage because, whatever. I understand it's misogynistic towards women, treats women poorly, all that stuff. I get that. I understand that. But the best way to explain Ballers is a less douchey Entourage. Like,
Ryan's like, that's my life goal.
Well, seriously, that's not my life goal. Believe me, I don't want to be famous and have to drag other people around on my coattails, or be one of those people that gets dragged around on coattails. I'm not about that life. But the cool thing about Ballers is it talks about like current NFL issues and stuff that off the field players are worried about. Like, Like The Rock, on the outside, he's like this big, tough ex-NFL player, but on the inside, he's falling apart because he played the game. He screwed his head up. He's abusing pills. So it's like it is the NFL right now. It's everything we see in the National Football League now, but in a TV show.
I'll have to go check it out.
Plus, Rashard Mendenhall is one of the guys that helped writing the show, the ex-running back for the Steelers.
Right.
So it's very lifelike. I'll have to hook you up and so you can check it out.
I have an HBO Go ID.
Yep.
So I'll check it out.
Definitely do, man. Kansas City extends linebacker Justin Houston 6 years, $101 million. Houston has 48.5 sacks in 59 games. He had 22 last season. New England extends kicker Steven Gostkowski 4 years, $17.2 million. Gostkowski had 86.6% of his career field goals have been made, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Right.
Dallas extends wide receiver Des Bryant 5 years, $70 million. A good deal for both sides. Bryant has 5,424 receiving yards, 56 touchdowns in 75 career games. And Denver extends wide receiver Demaryius Thomas 5 years, $70 million. Thomas has 5,317 yards, 41 touchdowns in 69 games. Now, we talked about it last week, Lewis.
On the same day, within an hour of each other.
Yeah. We talked about last week how there was collusion, and they were going to get charged with collusion if they didn't come to terms on a deal.
Right.
And then they come to the same deal, same day, half hour after each other. How weird is that?
That is a little weird. Although, not quite the same deal. Dez gets a little more guaranteed, buddy.
Yeah, but it's Dez's deal essentially is like 3 years, and they can walk away after 3 years, no questions asked. I mean, that's how all NFL deals are these days. Most deals, like Justin Houston gets 6 and 101, but there's a way that the Chiefs can get out of that deal at some point in time with minimal financial risk. That's just how contracts are these days.
Right.
Pittsburgh extends defensive end Cameron Hayward 6 years, $59.25 million. He has 15 sacks in 64 games, 29 of those being starts. He had 7.5 sacks last season. But the thing about Hayward is he is the heart and soul of that defense. He's the guy that they want to build that defense around, coming out of kind of the old Steeler defense into a new Steeler defense. They want him to be the guy. New England offensive lineman Dan Connolly retires. He played 89 career games in the National Football League. And the one thing about Connolly that I'll never forget is he once returned a kickoff for 71 yards. Almost returned a kickoff for a touchdown as an offensive lineman.
That's pretty good.
I'll have to show you the video. I don't know if you remember seeing that.
I'm sure I do.
And on Friday, Jacksonville cuts ties with wide receiver Ace Sanders. He had 539 career receiving yards in 27 games. He lost his spot in the roster. Fell down the wide receiver depth chart and then lost his kick return job, So there was really no room for him on the roster. Also, Lewis.
Adios.
We have 9 people in the Wolfensteiner Football League, and you have yet to sign up. You are the 10th man. Please do that soon. Also, make room on your calendar.
I need to pause you real quick. I need to take this call from the vet.
I will put us on hold.
All right, thanks, bro.
Not a problem. We'll be right back. No, we're back now again. Thank you for the holding.
No problem.
Well, I guess I'm thankful for the guests holding. or the guests. I'm in like work mode over here. Like I put someone on hold at work, and I'm like, thank you so much for holding. But I had actually funny story before we get into a little more football talk. I had a guy call last night, and there's a lady who's been there for a while, and he calls me, and he goes, "Can I have so and so's room?" I said, "Yes." "Can you please hold for a second?" He goes, "Why do I have to hold?"
Well, because I got to transfer you.
And I was like, "Well, I'm not at the desk right now. I can't send you from the phone I'm on right now. I'm in the kitchen making coffee." And he's like, "Well, why do you have to put me on hold? How long is that going to last for?" And I was like, roughly 5 seconds. I have to go from the kitchen to the desk, and then I have to send you over. And he's like, "Oh." So I sent him to the desk, and he goes, "Why am I not going through?" It's like, "Because I haven't sent you over yet." Then I send him over, and I go, "Well, she's on the phone." He goes, "Why didn't I hear a busy signal?" I was like, "Because I heard the busy signal because I'm the one transferring you and her line is busy." He goes, "Well, how do you know?" It's like, "Sir, I know what a busy signal is. Sorry." If you want
sounds like a bloody freaking idiot.
He was a dickhead for sure. But the one thing I wanted to say before we move over to the UFC, Perez, is I would like you to join the Fantasy Football League sometime soon, because we now have 9 people, and you are the 10th guy. As per requested of the Wolfensteiner Football League, the official Fantasy Football League of Better Live Than Dead. So we got to get you signed up here shortly, and try to keep August 30th open. It's a Sunday. Just let me know any time of the day you're free. Probably later in the day would be better. But we're probably going to do a draft at Eric's house in the basement, because I'm going to try to make the basement kind of like a man cave type of deal.
Okay.
So if we can get a bunch of people over to hang out, and maybe we'll get pizza or something, have a couple drinks, do a draft, have fun, enjoy ourselves. Just screw around. And also, I know you're good for it, but just give me the $10 before the season starts, and I'll get the trophies. Also, like I said, please sign up soon. Moving over, I sent it to your email, so you should have that in your email. I can resend it if you want me to. But moving over to UFC now. UFC 189 happened last Saturday, and let me tell you what, it was a phenomenal card. I actually fell asleep at my girlfriend's house during the Robbie Lawler-Rory McDonald fight, which, when I fell asleep, Rory McDonald was going to win the welterweight championship. I woke up, checked Twitter because she was in the other room, and it said McDonald is being taken to the hospital. And I was like, why is he going to the hospital? Because I thought he won. Come to find out, Robbie Lawler in the 5th round turned it on and just destroyed Rory McDonald. Busted his face. I think he broke his nose. Blood everywhere. Popped his face open. If you get a chance to go Google some photos or go check out Rory McDonald's Twitter, both Lawler and McDonald ended up at the hospital. And I think we're going to be seeing that fight again sometime soon, because I understand Lawler has beaten McDonald twice, but McDonald had Lawler dead to rights, and Lawler pulled it out. That's a true champion, though. Back against the wall. He does what he has to do to win. So that fight ended a minute into the 5th round. TKO. Robbie Lawler defends and retains his welterweight championship. And then Conor McGregor, white hot Conor McGregor at this point, is the interim featherweight champion after defeating Chad Mendes with a KO 4:57 into the 2nd round. Mendes was putting pressure on Conor McGregor, almost had him in a couple submissions. McGregor gets out of the submission hold and just starts throwing bows, and lands a left hook to the jaw of Mendes, and it took Mendes down. That's the fight. Conor McGregor, like I said, the interim featherweight champion. And they're saying Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, featherweight championship unification fight likely to take place this December. And the UFC is shooting for Dallas Cowboys Stadium, which that would be quite a spectacle.
Yes.
Now, sorry, take a sip of my frosty.
It would be pretty awesome.
I had to take a sip of my frosty beverage. The one thing we found out about Conor McGregor is he has quite a chin. And by that, in fighting sense, means he can take a punch.
Right.
A lot of people were very surprised by his ability to take a punch, but he stood with Chad Mendes and went toe-to-toe. And I'll tell you what, dude, that fight was awesome. Like, if you can get
it was awesome.
Yeah, if you can get a clip of that fight or a video of that fight, it's worth your time. It was really good.
I'll have to check it out.
Moving over to the National Hockey League now real quick. Anaheim signs ex-Buffalo Sabres forward Chris Stewart, 1 year, $1.7 million. He's the type of guy where we say, wow, that's a really good deal for Chris Stewart. He's really talented, and then he shows up and then doesn't do what you thought he would do or what he could do. Buffalo forward Ryan O'Reilly charged with DUI after running into a Tim Hortons and fleeing the scene of the accident in Lucan, I think it is, Ontario, Canada. Not a good sight for Buffalo Sabre Ryan O'Reilly, but I'm assuming he'll get the problem fixed and he'll get the help he needs to make sure this doesn't happen again. A report comes out this week that there's a bid to buy the Penguins will be expected within the next week. I guess I should reword that. The report says a bid for the Penguins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, is expected to be received in the next week. Quote, team could sell anywhere from $700 to $850 million. That's a lot of cash. It's a lot of cheddar. It's a lot of cheddar right there.
That is.
But we'll see what happens with the Penguins. Veteran forward and ex-Buffalo Sabre Taylor Pyatt retires in 859 career games. Pyatt had 280 points with 6 teams. Now here's a sign of consistency. 140 goals and 140 assists. That's pretty good. for consistency-wise. I mean, for a career, whatever. You know, he had his role, and he played it well, I guess, but that's pretty cool how he ends 140 and 140. At least for me, a statistical geek over here, I get excited at stuff like that. Like, I was actually kind of nerding out when I saw he scored exactly the same amount of goals and assists.
Nothing wrong with that, bro.
Anaheim extends Ryan Kessler. Ryan Kessler, 6 years, $41.25 million. He had 47 points last season in 81 games. The thing about Kessler, though, is he plays a heavy brand of hockey, and it's almost like he is going to. This deal will most likely end up not being a good one for the Ducks. We'll see what happens, but on paper, not a good deal for the Anaheim Ducks. He's a useful player, but in the next couple of years, he'll find himself in a bottom 6 role with Anaheim's younger kids getting better. He'll find his way shuffled out of the top 6. And I mean, if they win a cup, it doesn't matter. It'll put him in a bad spot in the future, but usually teams don't care about cap problems if they win the Stanley Cup. But again, I don't think it's going to be a good deal for the Ducks in the long term. And last but not least, before we head to commercial break, there's a report that the Seattle group in the SoDo district will not submit an expansion bid, which is due by Monday. It's unknown if the Tukwila group will file for expansion, which is the city south of Seattle that wants to build a stadium. They said they would do an NHL first arena, but we'll see. Applying for a franchise cost or expansion franchise costs $10 million, with $2 million of it being non-refundable. So we'll find out really quick who's serious and who's not. I expect Las Vegas. But if there's going to be Las Vegas expansion franchise, there's going to be another shoe to fall somewhere else. I'm not sure where yet. Maybe Portland. I'm struggling at this point to figure out where another team would go, because they want to keep the 16. They want to keep the league split in two, 15-15.
Right.
Or let's see, 15-15. I'm sorry, or 16-16. That's what it would be. Because I believe it's 16-14 right now. So we'll see how that goes. We'll keep you posted on that. But before we talk too long about the news, my friends, this is the news you need to know. Actually,
two things.
Uh-oh.
Two things.
Certainly.
You talked about Buffalo having a big week, but you didn't even mention Rex Ryan jumping out of an airplane.
You know what? I didn't mention that, and I do apologize, but that didn't surprise me. That's like a total Rex Ryan thing. I report stuff that is surprising to me. That's kind of like, oh wow, that doesn't make any sense, or why would that happen? Like with the Mia Khalifa stuff, I'm kind of like, why would you do that? You know, but Rex Ryan jumping out of a plane. That's like, hey, it's Tuesday. Okay, cool.
Right. Second thing I was going to say is, that Mia Khalifa's not bad looking.
I'm glad you took a look. Glad you took a look.
Yeah, she's not bad.
With that being said,
okay.
She's okay. She's very okay. With that being said, my friends, this is the news you need to know.
Now you know it.
When we get back, I talk with Mike Straw of the Hockey Writers about NHL 16, about the Buffalo Sabres, about TV, all that stuff. Stick around. More of the Better Live Than Dead podcast next. While you're listening to this podcast, make sure you follow us on social media. You can follow me at WolfBLTD on Twitter, and you can also follow Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Make sure to like the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/BLTD Podcast, and make sure you check us out at BLTDsports.com.
This free and independent sportscast is made possible when you shop the Gear Network store through Amazon. Visit GearNetwork.com and click on the Amazon banner to shop through Amazon's thousands of products at great prices delivered right to your front door. Again, that's GearNetwork.com and click the Amazon banner at the top.
Live from the Wolf Den Studios, you are listening to Better Live Than Dead.
Welcome back here to the Better Live Than Dead podcast. Joining me now on the FanDuel hotline, he is Mike Straw of the Hockey Writers, at Mike Straw Writes on Twitter. He was on the podcast last week. He's on the podcast this week. He's becoming a regular guest. How you doing today, my friend?
Fantastic, and that's how it should be, right? I mean, I saved it last week. I don't know how I saved it, but I saved it, and I'll save it again.
Well, you kind of did, because last week when you showed up, after you showed up, Brayton had to leave, so we would have only had 4 people. So you're the 5th guy, and
I'm the 5th wheel.
You make it work. I mean, it was good. Everything worked out well. And, I mean, the podcast was good. If you haven't listened to it yet, check it out. It's BLTD 51.5, the Mega Cat, if you will.
And, I mean, they got to listen to it simply for the fact of just how I threw everything off with my pick for number 1 in the food draft. Breakfast food.
The breakfast food draft was a wonderful way to end that podcast.
I threw everything off the rails. Like, everybody had this typical cliche stuff, and I just went all the way out to left field.
Well, I do like it how I kind of got a little into it. I mean, that's what happened before, though, when people were talking to me about when they said when we originally talked about it on Twitter, and like Chris Ostrander said, I would take bacon, and I was like, no, you have to understand, like, and I put it in baseball terms, and I think people assumed maybe that I might be a psychopath.
It took them this long?
Well, I mean, I've got to kind of hide it for a while.
We try and make a living doing writing and podcasting and all this other stuff. You got to be some sort of psychopath to even consider doing it. So
I'll tell you what, my computer before this podcast started, my computer died, and I had the blue screen of death for a little bit. And I'm like, I could have freaked out and thrown it across the room, and I was just like, you know what? This is probably not the worst thing that's going to happen today. So let's just restart the computer and let's just go back to where we were.
And now we're here.
I want to start off by talking about NHL 16. I know you've got a lot of good content over on the Hockey Writers about the game, but the where I want to start off with this is what is new and exciting about NHL 16 for those who don't know yet.
Well, to me, the biggest thing is the return of. First, let me preface this by saying NHL 16 is only going to be on Xbox One and PS4. If you still are on the older consoles, the 360 and the PS3, what you're going to get is NHL Legacy, which is just NHL 15 with the updated rosters and jerseys. Nothing else. So be prepared if you're still on that fence. But as far as NHL 16 on the new consoles, the biggest thing is the return of the EA Sports Hockey League. It was taken out last year due to some production issues and development team issues, which I'll get into in a little bit. That caused a lot of headaches, but that's the big thing. The ability to edit players, the refined skating engine that allows you to actually sidestep and pivot and actually play defense for the first time since, 2003, 2004. So there's a lot going on in the game that has me excited, and from the time I've actually had to play it, I actually just got my hands on a beta copy of it, 2.5 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, and it's good. The E3 copy is what I had my hands on, and it's good. It's a lot better than last year. It's not where it needs to be, but they're making progress. So, if you hated last year's, you're going to be a bigger fan of this year's just because of how much more quote-unquote realistic it got.
Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't owned a hockey game since, I think, the one with Claude Giroux on the cover.
So 13.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't want to throw out the wrong number. But I know with you, Mike, if I threw out the name of the player, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's that year. So,
yeah, I've kind of turned myself into, from 3 years covering the video game industry, but just being a passionate gamer, I've kind of thrown myself into a historian type of role with gaming. I do the same with wrestling. I know way too much that the average person should know. Like, I shouldn't know as much as I do about wrestling. Shouldn't know as much as I do about gaming. I shouldn't know as much as I do about a lot of stuff.
I shouldn't know as much as I do about sports, but, it is what it is. It creates for good conversation.
Exactly.
So I was sitting here, and I sit back, and I know I'm not going to buy the game. Like, that's just because I don't have a PS4. Because I was a heavy gamer, became an average gamer. For God's sake, I play MLB 12, the show, still. I have NHL 13. If that tells you how hardcore of a gamer that I am. But I know there's a lot of people out there who get very irritated about things like this, and rightfully so, because for a while, I stopped buying hockey games because it seemed like every year you were essentially getting the same exact game, but they would just update a few small things to make the game look fancier. Like this year, I know, for instance, you pointed out that they're adding mascots in the game. Like in past years, that would have been something where it's like from 13 to 14, they would have said, well, hey, guess what? Everything's the same, but we added mascots, so buy the game to see the mascots, and then you get the game, and it's like, this is the same exact game as last year, just with mascots. So it certainly does seem like they've taken the feedback that they've gotten from the gaming community and the hockey community and really put their time and effort into making sure that this game is awesome. Now, I know you've pointed out some nice things, Mike, but as a skeptical, somewhat average gamer, I would have to wait to see to believe it. But it certainly does sound like things are going to be a lot better, especially with the game only being on the newer consoles. So I'm assuming that allows them to put more time and effort into the game to make it that much better for the PS4 or the Xbox One.
Exactly. And what people need to realize now, last week, 2 weeks ago, I had an hour and a half conversation with Sean Ramjan Singh, the lead producer of the franchise. And he made it perfectly clear. I mean, people, when the game jumps from one generation to another, so when it jumps from the Xbox 360 and PS3 to PS4 and Xbox One, people expect everything to be brought over. What people don't understand, and he made this clear, and it like my narrow mind had kind of the same idea as the rest of the fan base. It took 7 to 8 years to get everything they wanted in the game last generation actually in the game. So, granted, it won't take as long because they're kind of adapted to the newer technology and it's easier to work with and things like that. But people expecting it to be exactly like it was and then some on the old consoles kind of get disappointed because they kind of expect too much in such a short period of time. People have to realize with the PS4 and Xbox One, and this may seem like I'm defending EA and the team at EA Vancouver, but it takes a while. It takes a bit to learn every console's different. It takes a bit to learn the new hardware and the new development systems. Basically, when you bring a game over, they can't just port it like they did from, say, the original Xbox and PS2 to the PS3 and Xbox 360. You have to build from the ground up and from scratch. So people kind of get their hopes up, their expectations, and when it's not what they want, they immediately bash it, even if it was a good game. Now, NHL 15 was awful. I mean, there's no denying how bad it actually was. I mean, I gave it a 6 only because the presentation was nice and the visuals were nice and the graphic and things like that. But it wasn't that fun to play. It wasn't that detailed. But it was a nice foundation. With it this year, they're kind of they're taking everything that they've heard, as much as they could for such a small development team, and putting it into the game. I mean, from the edit a player to improving some game modes to more penalty logic to skating better and things like that. They're trying to take as much as they can in this short amount of time. They only have 8 months to work on a game. So it's a very rushed time frame.
The one thing I was going to jokingly mention with how you say everything's improved, I wonder if the video game would allow you to trade Zach Ronaldo for a third-round pick.
No.
Because that is illogical.
Every time a trade comes up, and I'm not joking when I say this, I think I'll make it a series on the Hockey Writers, too. Okay. Inside information here. Would it work? That'll be the series. Would it work? When Zach Ronaldo got traded, I loaded up NHL 15, and I tried to make the trade, and, quote, "Are you trying to take me for a fool?" They wouldn't do it, no matter what I did. They would not. I had to, in order to get a third-round pick for Zach Ronaldo, I had to throw in a first.
Wow. Wow, that's
like no one would give up a third-round pick for that. I mean,
that's impressive. That is, and I know there's actually something going up here. It's a smaller piece, but today I believe, today being Friday, there'll be a piece up on BetterLiveThanDeadSports.com or BLTDSports.com about the Bruins' moves and how they've been mind-numbing at this point. I mean, we've all discussed this, yeah. But
if they want to go for Austin Matthews, I mean, good for them.
Absolutely. It's going to be between them and not Carolina, in Arizona, the Coyotes.
Personally, it's bad. Like I think I've told you this. I'm not sure. I know a lot of people who know me know. When I was a kid, I grew up in a Toronto Maple Leafs household, but I fell in love with the Coyotes like 96, 97 or 97, 98 because of Nikolai Khabibulin. He was my favorite player growing up. Well, my favorite goalie.
The Bulin Wall.
Lindros has always been my favorite player, and people give me so much crap for that. But
says a lot about you, Mike.
Yeah, Nikolai Khabibulin. Like I loved watching him play. So my first hockey game was Sabres versus Coyotes because I wanted to see Phoenix so bad. So part of me thinks they need to just relocate because it's not working. Part of me also believes if they get Austin Matthews, it'll do what Stamkos kind of did or LeCavier kind of did for Tampa, it'll do what what Madonna did for Dallas. It'll kind of make that market successful because of the type of player they have. For a southern market like that, I mean, why do you think Florida's not successful? In my mind, they never had that star player. Sure, they had Burry, but they never had that super star that people paid to see.
Well, I certainly think with Florida too, it's about the location. With Arizona, it's about the location. Like if you you might be able to put the Coyotes in Scottsdale or wherever the Suns play. If it's not downtown,
it's Phoenix, yeah,
downtown Phoenix. Because I believe they're talking about putting a new stadium in Scottsdale. That's why I keep saying Scottsdale.
Yeah, I mean, if they do that, if they build a new arena that's actually suitable for hockey in Phoenix or Scottsdale,
yeah.
Perfect. Because the arena that they played in prior to moving the Gila River, awful.
Well, the longer the Coyotes continue to be bad, yeah, it's going to hurt the franchise, but they're going to continue to wrap up some nice young talent. I mean,
I think this might be the last year, kind of, what the Sabres were last year. I think this might be the last year. Again, we're getting way off topic, but this might be the last year
that
you might be the last year where you see Arizona this bad.
I'll tell you what.
If they somehow get Austin Matthews, you're going to see them have a quick turnaround. Not playoff contender, but like the Sabres this year, they're going to compete.
I'll tell you what. The one thing that's exciting about speaking of the Coyotes and the Bruins and being bad, I don't want to fast forward the season, but I'm certainly intrigued as to how the new draft lottery is going to work out.
Me too. Me too, because the top 3 picks now, yeah.
It's going to be a blast.
It's like the NBA, and I like the NBA draft lottery.
So essentially, I was going to say the new NHL lottery is the NBA lottery, where a team can jump up, and then the top 3 are picked separately.
I believe so. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of intrigue. I mean, as long as the Buffalo Sabres aren't bad again, and we're expecting to get the number 1 overall pick. But then again, someone did mention how funny would it be if the Sabres missed out in the playoffs by 8 or 9 points, and then won the draft lottery.
Yeah,
like that would something like that happening, the world would blow up.
Yeah. So the way the lottery worked, because I wanted clarification on that, so we didn't sprout off like terrible information. They're going to have 3 drawings. The first lottery draw will determine the first overall pick, then another draw will determine second, and then another draw will determine third.
Okay, that makes sense.
So every team that misses the playoffs has a chance to pick in the top 3.
Now, the one question I want to ask you before we let you go here, because we've already almost been talking for 15 minutes, which that's the thing I like about you, Mike, is we can sit around and we can talk for days, and it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, we can have a whole podcast dedicated to like just NHL 16 with all the information I have.
Yeah, we just randomly going topic to topic. We'll talk about the game, and then we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about that. But there's one thing I did want to ask you, because I was going to ask you on the MegaCast, on the hashtag MegaCat, but frankly, we ran out of time. Surprisingly, because we were there for almost 8 hours, which
By the way, I bought watermelon beer.
Me too.
It's the greatest thing I've ever had. So
Tom and Sarah did a good job, because I actually on Monday night I stopped and I bought some from Wegmans.
That's exactly what I did. Actually, I bought it that night. On my way home, I stopped at Wegmans because I had to get groceries.
They have power over us. Well, the thing is, when I met Tom and Sarah, like I said, the first time I went to grab a beer, I said I'll take a Blue Light, and Sarah almost smacked me in the face, and she's like, "Never again. You'll never do that again. I promise you."
At least you didn't say Coors Light.
No, I have some self-respect. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you drink actual water, not.
Yeah, well, now I drink other things like Hell or High Watermelon, which is amazing.
Like, I drink whatever is usually free.
Absolutely.
Because I'm cheap.
Well, usually when I'm at my parents, like I'm at my parents' house right now in the process of moving to the Emanon family estate, which is turning into kind of a cluster. But hey, nothing in life is supposed to be easy. My dad just bought a bunch of Blue Lights, so if I drink this weekend after my watermelon beer runs out, I'll probably have a couple Blue Lights. But it's free, so I can't complain.
Yeah, I like when I was down for 4th of July with my family in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Busch Light is the beer champions there.
Ooh.
But I drank it because it was there.
You're a trooper.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I mentioned off air last Sunday something about talking about the viability of a regional sports network for the Buffalo Sabres, because coming up soon this year or next year, their contract with MSG is up. Now, you said you had something on that. What would you like to put out there and tell the people of Podcast Land about this potential regional sports network?
Well, this information will be exclusively on the Better Live Than Dead podcast. I was doing the Mick Foley cheap hop there, I put my thumb up in the air and everything. But from what I've been told, they really want to do something, and they're trying to work out a deal, and there's a lot of avenues that have to be taken, a lot of litigation that has to go through it, of trying to get a sports net centered around the Blue Jays. Because that'd be the only way. They have the Bison, sure, but getting Major League Baseball, getting a broadcast package with them could go a long way towards making an RSN viable. Granted, and we've heard it all, that you need baseball. Ted Black has said it numerous times through all the media summits we've had or all that stuff. Granted, Oklahoma City has their own Fox Sports net. There's certain markets that make it work, but they got to have a lot of people. It seems like the Sabres want to have baseball entrenched, and the Bisons just won't pull in that type of money. So they want to work out something because of the partnership with the Bisons and Blue Jays to where they can get, if not every Blue Jays game, half of the season. They really want to get Blue Jays baseball on there to take up the summertime. But the big thing is they want to make this area, this hub, downtown with the Harbor Center. I can never remember the name of the building that Pagula Sports and Entertainment is in now.
The Fairmont Creamery, I believe.
Okay. Where First Niagara is, and maybe down the line a new Bills Stadium, but that's neither here nor there right now. But they want to make it a hub and have a studio, from what I've been told, within the same building they're headquartered. And that's a big reason why also they wanted to move out of the one Seneca Tower, the old HSBC tower, because that just wasn't going to happen there. So they want to buy a building. They want to have that hub to where they can do everything from one central location. An RSN would be great. I think it happens by the time 2018, 2019 comes around. I think what they wind up doing is they'll probably extend with MSG for maybe 2 years while they finalize everything, or or they're already in the process. That's what I don't know, if they're already in the process, but I know what they want to do. But they want to do something similar to what Empire Sports Network was, just better. They want to have, look at the Bills. Like when Empire Sports Network was around, they had weekly Bills shows. Sure, you have the coach show on like Channel 7 here and stuff like that. But they want to have, when you look at like Fox Sports Ohio, they have weekly shows about the Browns and Bengals. They have college shows. It'll bring attention to sports to where most people who don't have Time Warner Cable can actually watch. Because if you want to watch Amherst hockey, if you want to watch UB basketball or football, if you want to watch anything, you usually got to watch it on Time Warner Cable Sports.
Yeah, and you have to remember too that Terry Pagula owns the Bills, the Sabres, the Bandits. If he can get the Blue Jays, that would be huge. Maybe some Bison's games. Any shows, you could probably get a couple sports shows on there. Yeah, really anything at this point. It's viable. It's we've got to the point now where a regional sports network is not out of the question. And you look at what Ted Black has done. He was kind of the linchpin to the whole Fox Sports Pittsburgh operation. So they have people within the organization that have experience running, building, making successful regional sports networks. And at this point with Buffalo, it almost makes too much sense.
Exactly. And the thing, and that's the biggest thing though that stinks about it, is say Buffalo legit. Tim Murray called it during his press conference last week at development camp. He said Buffalo is like the 8th Canadian market. And a lot of people would agree with that when it comes to hockey. If Buffalo legit was in Ontario, if Buffalo was placed 5 minutes up the road, getting Blue Jays, getting RSN would be no problem. But because it's an international thing, there's a lot of laws and everything that goes into effect, which really, can put a damper in it. And then there's issues with the Yankees and the Mets having broadcasting rights in this area as well, because that was a big reason why Indians and Pirates games ended up getting blacked out here, because of the fact the Yankees and Mets have kind of control on the entire New York State market.
Yeah, it's so weird how that works out too, because we can't watch Pirates games. We can watch, I think, Indians games. I know my parents have DirecTV through Buffalo, the Buffalo area.
Yeah,
and
they
get
block
Indians.
them out.
We get Indians games. I live an hour outside of Buffalo, so it's really weird how I get Yes Network, I get MS, I get Yes Network, I get Sportsnet. Thank you, SNY. I get STO, which is the Indians, but then you can't watch the Pirates because they're blacked out, and the Blue Jays are also blacked out, I believe.
Yep.
It's really weird how that works out.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of things that go into that, and I think that'll be what you see happening over the next 2 years. Probably won't hear anything unless something they really have a plan in place. But I want to say they'll try and make it work.
Well, and it would be a lot more.
It's that it's going to be, they want it centered around baseball,
and it's a lot more money too. Like if you start a regional sports network, that will make Pagula's pile of already a lot of good assets even better, and make him worth a lot more money, because that right there just is a successful regional sports network is something that certainly can add some extra. It can line your pocket with a little more cash. So I'm sure that's also something that they're looking into at this point as well.
Exactly.
But I guess we're over 20 minutes now, so that was excellent. I appreciate you joining me. Is there anything else you want to add before we let you go, Mike?
Keep an eye on HockeyWriters.com. There's a lot more NHL 16, because this was a long interview I had. So there's a lot, too much to put in one or two pieces. So every couple days there'll be something new information coming.
Well, that's a disservice to yourself too if you put all in one article, when you can stretch it out and get a bunch of views on a couple of different articles.
Exactly.
You know how the game works. You know how the game works, Mike.
And attention span of people, including myself. If I can read an article that's 500-600 words long, I'll do that over an article that's 4,000 words long, unless it's a real, like, Tim Graham piece on Rex Ryan.
Or anything on Dear God, Why Us Sports.
Yeah, but like Tim Graham, like I'll read any long form stuff he does. I'll read that all day. It just depends.
That's fair, man. That's fair. I'm that way too. I see an article and I'm like, you know what? I just scroll down real fast. I'm like, nah, this is too long. Like, I don't want to read it.
And I want the TLDR version. Too long.
Exactly. Just tell me like, oh, he's a piece of crap. Cool, thanks. I already knew that. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is Mike Straw, at Mike Straw Writes on Twitter. Give him a follow. He's a good follow on the tweetbots. Also, check out the HockeyWriters.com. Mike, thank you for joining me today, and we look forward to talking to you sometime soon.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Don, how's it going?
Living the dream. I'm actually just getting ready to do this commercial.
Oh, you mean the commercial where I tell our listeners to tune into Gear Network every week to listen to our show, Get Ready America? That one?
Yeah, John, that's the one.
They can also listen to us talk about news, sports, whatever's on our minds, that.
And a little of what's on our listeners' minds, but they're just too nice to say it.
Well, that, Don, is a real humdinger.
Humdinger.
Come join us this and every week for Get Ready America exclusively on the Gear Radio Network.
And the Gear Network app.
A successful product does not become a successful product on its own. Look at the Gear Radio Network, for example. We're a prime example. We had a lot of help getting here, and we can help you get where you want to go too. Advertising rates are very low to start off here on the Gear Radio Network. Visit us at gearnetwork.com. Click on the contact link to send us an email, and we can work out the details. Again, advertise your product across all of the forums at a low rate here on the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network.
Hello there. This is the podcast. We're back from commercial break after that good interview with Mike Straw. He's good people. You'll have to meet him sometime, Perez. He's one of those guys you can sit down and if you have something to talk about, you can just go back and forth for hours, just riff about it. I know
Nothing wrong with that.
That's how the interview ended up 23 or 24 minutes, because we were going back and forth riffing, as you heard in the interview. And
Right.
I'm like, maybe we should wrap this up, because if not, we're just going to go the whole podcast and we don't have to talk about anything else this week. But I know he had a lot of good stuff to talk about. NHL 16, he's been a hot in the trail of the video games for a while. And then last week during the hashtag BLTD MegaCat. And if you haven't listened to that, check it out on Spreaker or BLTDsports.com. It's quite a listen. It's very good. He mentioned something about TV deals, and we didn't get to it, so I wanted to bring him on to talk about that this week, because my curiosity has been killing me at this point. So I figured it was a good time to get a friend on and just to talk about hockey. There's never a bad time to talk about hockey, that's for sure.
I agree with you.
But with that being said, Perez, we're going to talk about baseball right now.
We're talking baseball. By the way, I just want to start a shout-out to John for singing the song when he was filling in for me.
I'll tell you what, like John, he fits the mold well. When you're not in and he takes over for you, he has learned everything very well Thank you, John, for doing that, because it makes the transition seamless. Like, I know when I say episode 52, Perez goes 5-2. When I say this is the news you need to know, Perez says, now you know it. When I say talking baseball, Perez sings talking baseball. When I say we're better alive than dead, Perez says you are not. Like, John has picked up on that, and I appreciate that.
Yes, that was good.
Plus, it's always funny too, because sometimes you get a Luis Perez impression out of John. So
that's true. Which is always humorous.
Always funny. Starting off with the Boston Red Sox, they placed pitcher.
I would do a John Sabino impression, but my voice doesn't go that high.
You could just pretend you're a white guy and say you're John.
Well, John's not white though.
I know, but it's funny because you can act like it though.
That's true. I could do that. Like I said, my voice just doesn't go that high.
It's okay. It's okay. You're just more manly than all of us, Perez. It's okay.
No, that's true.
The Boston Red Sox placed pitcher Clay Buchholz on the disabled list with a flexor tendon strain. Now, that stuff sounds bad because whenever the flexor tendon strain usually leads to a torn elbow. But they say the elbow is still intact. And Buchholz is going to visit Dr. James Andrews on Wednesday for, quote, peace of mind before he starts a throwing program. Now, it's a big loss for the Red Sox. Buchholz is 7-7 on the year with a 3.26 ERA, but in his last 7 starts, 4-1 with a 2.4 ERA, really molding himself into that ace role that he said he was going to at the start of the season, but struggled out of the gate, had a few bad outings. There was one outing where he let 9 runs in, and if he hadn't done that, his ERA would be closer to 2 and change. So he's been a big part for the Red Sox, and they're trying to get out of the basement, and they're trying to kind of click. They still haven't clicked yet. I mean, on Friday night, I was watching the Red Sox game Saturday morning. They allowed 2 hits, and they lost.
Which is crazy.
I mean, but then again, if Mike Trout does what Mike Trout wants to do, Mike Trout hit a walk-off home run bottom of the 9th inning off Koji Uehara, which I wasn't even mad. I just shut the game off. I'm like, this is garbage. Like, it's Red Sox for you. But Atlanta pitcher Jason Grilli ruptures his Achilles tendon, out for the remainder of the year. He was 3-4 with a 2.94 ERA in 33 2/3 innings. Tough blow for him because he was likely to be, if I'm not mistaken, a trade candidate. But now that he is out for the remainder of the year with a torn Achilles, that's obviously not going to happen.
Right.
Speaking of the Braves, they designate pitcher David Carpenter for assignment in 3 2/3 innings this year. He has a 7.36 ERA, and if I remember correctly, David Carpenter not good at all. Now in AAA, his ERA was under 1, but in Atlanta, not good. But if I remember correctly, David Carpenter was part of the compensation package that the Cubs sent the Red Sox for Theo Epstein.
Yes.
Moving over to the home run derby now, hometown third baseman, or hometown guy, I guess I should say, third baseman of the Cincinnati Reds, Todd Frazier, wins the new and improved home run derby. Ratings were up this year thanks in part to the new rules, and 159 home runs were hit in this derby, the most ever. Now, I don't know if you caught the derby, but
I watched the whole thing. It was awesome.
Me too. I was about to say it was amazing. I mean, you have walk-off home runs happening in the home run derby. That's what it's all about. And the fact that Cincinnati was losing their minds, it was amazing. Like, I signed me up for that every time.
Yeah, it was a really fun home run derby.
I hope now that they have this new...
And Frazier was hitting bombs.
I hope now that they have this new setup for the home run derby that more people will want to do it. I mean, I know this year, if Giancarlo Stanton was healthy, he probably would have been in the derby, and he probably would have crushed everybody. But I think that this could be a thing going on, and I really like it because it's a great way to improve the derby, make people care more about it. Moving over to the All-Star game now, the American League defeats the National League 6-3. Mike Trout, speaking of Mike Trout, wins the MVP for the second straight year, first player to ever do this. He leads off the game with a home run. Now, Lewis, I don't know if you remember Trout's past performances, but for 4 straight years, his first at bat. In 2012, he hit a single. 2013, a double. 2014, a triple. This year, a home run. The natural cycle. The natural cycle.
Yes, he hit for the natural cycle.
In 4 consecutive All-Star games in the first at bat. That's amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
As for the All-Star game, though, they received record low TV ratings. Now, is it time to change the All-Star game? Like, do you think that they need to take out the home field advantage and just say, look it, we're gonna make this a fun thing, not a serious thing?
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Because fans don't seem to care.
No, I enjoy watching it, But, fans are so fickle. But, you need to determine who's going to have home field advantage some way.
Just go by records.
True.
Tiebreakers. Make something up. I don't know, because right now it's not using an exhibition game to determine who gets home field advantage in an extra game, a Game 7 in a World Series that determines your champion. That's garbage.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Moving on, speaking of the gear guy, Jose Barrios got the start in the MLB Futures game. He threw a scoreless inning to open the game. He'll get his first post-All-Star break start Saturday, the 18th of July, against Lehigh Valley in Rochester. So hopefully he starts to turn the corner, because he'd been struggling a little with the Red Wings, but it's a big jump from AA to AAA, so hopefully he turns it around. We'll keep following him. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, before we move on, I want to reset for everyone out there who may not pay attention to baseball as much as you and I do, Perez, or me and you do, Perez. I'm getting better with the me and I stuff, because I've always been bad with it. I was taught a certain way in college, and the way I was taught in college apparently is not correct.
Freaking college.
Yeah, college was garbage, man.
That higher education stuff.
In the American League East, the New York Yankees at 49-40 lead Tampa and Toronto, who are both 46-46 by 4.5 games. In the AL Central, the Kansas City Royals.
Which I have to say, I did not think was going to happen at all this year.
Well, the mediocre East, it is what it is. Someone has to take the reins, and the Yankees are currently doing it.
Yeah, but I didn't think they'd be above 500 at this point of the year.
There's still a lot of baseball to be played, my friend.
Oh, I know.
In the AL Central, Kansas City at 53-35 leads Minnesota 50-40 by 4 games. In the AL West, Los Angeles at 49-40 leads Houston, who are 52-42 by a half a game. In the AL wildcard, Minnesota is 1 game up on Houston, and Houston is 3.5 games up on Detroit. Moving over to the NL now, in the East, Washington at 48-39 leads the Mets, 47-43 by 2.5 games. In the NL Central, the 57-33 St. Louis Cardinals lead Pittsburgh, who are 53-36 by 3.5 games. In the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers at 51-39 lead San Francisco, who are 46-33. Let me try that again. In the National League West, the Dodgers at 51-39 lead the Giants, who are at 46-43 by 4.5 games. In the National League wildcard, Pittsburgh is 5.5 up on Chicago on the Cubs, and the Cubs are 1 game up on the Mets. Now that I chewed on my tongue for a little while, I want to kind of go along and make some bold predictions myself. I looked some stuff up last night to kind of fill some time in the podcast, because I know the podcast this week is going to kind of be short. Plus, it wouldn't be a podcast without talking out of our asses completely, so we got to do it. We have to do it. Now, I looked up some stats and some things and just made some bold predictions. Now, Perez, if you come up with anything, feel free. I'm just going to toss these out there really quick just to get them on record, because usually what happens is I'll say, I thought I predicted this, and I go back and listen to the podcast. It never happened. So I want to get these on record right now, July 18th, Saturday. I'm calling it. Not very crazy things, but I'm still going to call them. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Garrett Cole. He's 13-3 on the season. I'm going to say he wins 20-plus games and finishes in the top 3 of the NL Cy Young voting.
Okay.
Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw at 6-6 right now. I'm going to say he will not win more than 10 games for the first time, or he will not get to double digits. So he will not win 10 games for the first time since 2009.
Really?
Los Angeles, like I said, it's bold. Watch out, I'm bold. Well, he hasn't been getting really good run support. He's kind of struggled. His ERA is normal, is like 2.85. He's regressing back to the mean. He's a really good pitcher still, but just not having a great year. And I think this might be the year he doesn't. He could go out and win 5 straight and make me look like a fool, but I just have a feeling he'll win maybe 9 games, have a couple no decisions. You figure if he has 10 starts left this season, he has to win 40% of his starts. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. Los Angeles Angels outfielder Mike Trout, currently at 27 home runs, will hit 45-plus home runs this season and pass his previous career high of 36. I feel like that's a gimme.
I get on board with that.
I threw it in there. Washington outfielder Bryce Harper, currently at 26 home runs. I think he hits 40 home runs and wins the National League MVP. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
His average is high. He's batting over 335, I believe. And he also, like I said, he's helping the Nationals get to the playoffs.
Right.
Houston Astros and the Minnesota Twins were the fourth and fifth worst teams in 2014. I have both of them making the playoffs this year. Bold prediction.
Hey, you heard my bold prediction at the baseball preview show. I said the Astros were going to win it all.
And you're looking like a smart man. We all thought you were a jackass, and you're making us all look like a fool.
Well,
I'm going to go out on a limb with their recent run and how they've been playing. I have a feeling that the Pittsburgh Pirates can win and will win the NL Central. And I believe, Perez, the Chicago Cubs will win the National League wild card. Call me crazy. Bold prediction.
wow.
Is there anything you have?
That's a real bold one.
I'll say, is there anything you have, or are we just going to sit here and make fun of my stupidity?
No, dude, I'm cool with all of yours.
Okay.
I get on board. I get on board with them.
That's fair. I appreciate it. With that being said,
Those are pretty bold, so, you know.
thank you. I'm a very bold person, I guess. We're done talking baseball. When we get back here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast, we're going to wrap this bad boy up and call it a day. Stick around.
Am I not saying hello to anyone this week?
You can say hello. I cut it out. You know what? When we come back, we'll say hello. I didn't know if you'd be ready. I didn't want to push it.
I'm always ready.
Then guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Impromptu hello session. And we're going to wrap the podcast up. When we get back, stick around.
That's right.
Do you enjoy listening to Better Live Than Dead, but you're not always by your laptop to hear it on GearNetwork.com? Not to worry, we've got you covered. Better Live Than Dead and all other Gear Network podcasts can now be heard on iHeartRadio, iTunes, in the Zune Marketplace, on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher Radio, and on TuneIn Radio. So make sure you get one of the aforementioned apps to stay up to date with the latest Gear Network podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Perez here, telling you about FanDuel's one-day fantasy baseball leagues. Every day you pick the player you want, you can pick a whole team, and play for real money against other users. FanDuel has over 20,000 one-day leagues, so joining in is never an issue. Also, there's no daily commitment, so you play whenever you want. The best part? Over $2 million in prizes every single day. And if you sign up through GearNetwork.com/FanDuel, you help support the network and keep this podcast free.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network. Now, here's Perez and Ryan.
It's closing time here on Better Live Than Dead podcast, episode number 52. But before we start to wrap things up, I believe Lewis would like to say hello to somebody.
That's right. Today, I'm going to say hello to Pim Boo Bear. That's her name. She's Asian. It's P-I-M, and then her last name is B-U-B-E-A-R. I was watching last night before the crazy storms happened in Rochester. I was sitting in my car in my driveway watching, or smoking a cigar, and I had my tablet, and I was watching Netflix, and I watched The Man with the Iron Fists 2, and there was this girl in it called Pim. Well, her name in the movie was Innocence, but I looked her up because she is smoking hot. So, do you guys do yourselves a favor and check out Pim Boo Bear. She is delightful to look at.
Sounds good. That's fair. Hey, look at this point, anybody you want to talk about and say hello to, usually is usually a pretty lady.
Oh, I'm not going to lead you guys astray.
No, you do us well.
Absolutely.
And it's good to have hello back in the podcast, that's for sure. It's been like I said, it's been a weird couple weeks because You've been busy. You've had some. Your dog has been under the weather. Understandable. Things happen. Whatever. I'm not. Again, you hold no grudges. All that stuff. No problem. I'm trying to read Twitter read my Instagram. Look at my Instagram as I'm talking. We hold no grudges. There's no problem. If you can't make the podcast, you can't make the podcast. Life happens. But I'll tell you what, though.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though, Perez. It's good to have you back in the podcast.
It's good to be back on the podcast.
And it's good to have you back for more than a segment, because I understand you get you on for 15 minutes, whatever. But I'm always kind of like, man, I wish we could have talked longer.
Right.
It's good to have you back. Next week, hopefully, next week, I'm not even sure what's going to happen next week. I might have to do it during the week, like do it like this again, because Saturday is shot at this point. Because I'm supposed to be moving, knock on wood, holding my breath, all that stuff. So we'll talk about it.
Next week we'll bring back story time also.
Yeah, sounds good to me. We could do that. But like I said, it may have to happen during the week, but we'll get that. We'll iron that out during the week. It's not a problem right now.
Yeah, just let me know.
But I figured I'd give you a heads up, because I know if you have Skype on your phone, we can just, and this sounds good, we'll just get you on whenever, and we'll just go for it and just talk.
Sounds good.
I want to mention, as per usual, check out Get Ready America over at Gear Network. Check out House Party Podcast as well. Keep buying stuff through Amazon. I know. Prime Day was this week on the 15th. It was a little underwhelming for me, but some people enjoyed it.
Disappointing.
Yeah, I was ready to spend some cash just to buy some cool stuff, and they had nothing for me.
Pretty much.
And then I went to go buy my girlfriend a Lord of the Rings DVD set. She loves Lord of the Rings, as you know, Lewis. It was like $100 set for $25. I went to go buy it, and they're like, you can't buy this anymore.
Sold out.
Well, no, they said the time ran out, and I'm like, you said it was for 24, it was like 12 more hours. They said, no, it's done now. And I was like, oh, that's a bunch of crap.
That's BS.
I was very mad about it. But
understand.
Again, if you have not checked out the BLTD Megacast, hashtag BLTD Megacat, please do. A lot of hockey talk with good people, a lot of good friends, good times. We had a bunch of good beverages throughout the podcast. I had a watermelon beer, a banana beer. It was a good day, very good day. And also, like I said, there's a lot of good content about the Buffalo Sabres. So if you like the Buffalo Sabres, check it out. Listen in. I think we're going to do it more often. I have to figure out the computer situation, because naturally, Perez, our podcast laptop is a fickle bitch. And when it's not you and I recording a podcast, it doesn't want to work.
Yep.
So I go to Buffalo, and we had 2 microphones, ended up with 1 microphone, barely working, but we got the podcast done. It took a long time, like I said, to get the podcast done, but it's up. It's an hour and 36 minutes. Check it out. Let me know what you think. We're going to do it more often. Everybody who was there will be back on board, so it's going to be a lot of good content from a lot of good hockey people in the Buffalo area. Also, check out Better Live Than Dead Sports, BLTDsports.com. We've got some articles that went up the past couple days talking about the Buffalo Sabres, talking about the Boston Bruins. Alex, one of our new writers, made his writing debut. Check it out. I mean, we've got a lot of new stuff. It's the off season, and sports are kind of slow right now, so we're taking our time getting stuff back up. But we're going to talk more soon. Like, I'm going to have pieces about the trade deadline coming up with Major League Baseball and all that stuff. And also, as per usual, I want to say thank you to IndyCard Media and Dapper's Not Dead Barber Social Club, sponsors of BLTDsports.com, for their continued support as we continue to build our brand.
That's right.
Also, Lewis, I want to say thank you to you for taking the time out, almost over an hour now, to discuss sports and life and all that stuff. It's been nice.
It's been fun. Thank you.
I'm gonna go outside, and I'm always happy to have you. And I'm always more than welcome to talk to you. You know that. But I think I'm gonna go outside here in a minute and go enjoy the beautiful day. I've got to rearrange some of my stuff at my parents' house and get ready to move next weekend and just go out and enjoy the weather, because it's muggy, but it's gorgeous outside. So
it is.
I will. With this, I guess I'll let you go. I hope you have a good day. Drive safe. Enjoy your day at work. I don't know if you're still working or not, but
I am. I'm sitting outside the one store I got to go into.
Well, enjoy yourself. Have a good day. Thanks for taking the time out.
Absolutely.
Thank you to every single one of you who tune in the podcast each and every single week, who make this podcast possible. You guys, as we always say, are the reason we still continue to do this. For Lewis, I am Ryan, saying we are Better Live Than Dead.
You're not.
We will talk to you sometime next week. Maybe Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. I don't know. But we'll talk to you next week on the 53rd edition of the Better Live Than Dead podcast. But right now, don't be fooled. This is episode 52. Have a good one, my friends.
Adios, peoples.
We'll talk to you sometime soon.